Hi everybody and welcome back to the channel. My name's Mike and this is Build and Tinker. And today is a great day because we're starting a brand new model. We have a new delivery from Fanhome. It's the first pack from the John Wick Ford Mustang Boss 429. Great car. We didn't get these in the UK when they were on sale, and which is a shame because I love a muscle car. Now there are lots of Mustang models out there on the market, but this is the first one I've done and I reckon it's probably the best one as well. It's the best looking car. So let's open the box and see what we get. So the first pack includes our collection guide, which has this fold out, and it shows you everything about the model, the features, how it's going to look when it's finished, and some of the other bits and pieces that we're going to get during the build. So it's 1/8 scale, so it's 59 centimeters or 23.5 inches long when it's finished. It's quite big. It's all mostly metal, so it's going to be a nice big heavy piece. And there's lots of realistic detail like the engine. We've got a great interior, working lights and a remote control to make it all work. And of course the free gifts that we get throughout the build. There's some photo prints, a license plate, a mug and a keyring. And as an early subscriber I also get a hoodie, which I'm looking forward to. And here's the big poster that shows you exactly how it's going to look when complete. I've opted for the premium subscription, which includes a case. It's one of the new style cases that Fanhome seem to be offering with quite a lot of their models with an illuminated base. I've yet to receive one, even though I've got a few on different subscriptions. So I don't know what the quality's like, but it'll be interesting to see when the first one arrives. So if you're new to part work building, you might ask the question, well, what do I need to build it? And how easy are they? They're pretty easy to go together. Most things just screw or clip together. You're not going to need to glue anything. You don't need to paint anything, and you don't need to drill holes. They even give you a screwdriver in the first kit, which is adequate to get the model put together. I have some third-party screwdrivers from Vera that I prefer. But this, you've got everything you need to get started. I recommend also a cutting mat. And a stable table. Some people do it on the dining table. You don't want to scratch the parts and you don't want to scratch the table either. So a cutting mat from anywhere, Amazon, somewhere like that, is quite useful. And also some foam. So I have some offcuts of foam here that I use just to protect the paintwork if I'm having to flip the pieces over. You don't want to be scratching things whilst they're on the bench. So let's open up pack 1 and get building. So with the first pack open, we get a first look at this hood, and it really is a lovely piece of kit. It's painted with 2 black stripes down it, and I always inspect large painted parts before I assemble them, just to make sure there's no blemishes or scratches or any reason why I might need to get a replacement. This one looks pretty good actually. It's got some chrome details in it already, which are the different tie down clips, and there's a little bit of dust on it, but there's no scratches, so I'm quite happy with that. Now you always get a nice big chunky piece like this at the beginning of the build to entice you in, and that's great, and it's a nice piece to have. However, it's not going to go on the car for a very long time, so we need to think about how we're going to store this in a way that's not going to get damaged for the next year at least. So keep the packaging for some of these big parts, because you'll need to return it back into the packet for safe storage. I also use some big plastic storage bins, which I have one for each model, and it's a really helpful way of keeping the parts so they don't get lost, and ensuring that nothing gets damaged in the process of storage. We've also got in this first packet the hood liner. So this part's plastic, whereas the main part was metal. There's some screws and some brackets, so we need to identify all of those parts before we put anything together. And the hood scoop, which has got a little grill on the front. And our first piece of electronics. So this car has some working lights, and I understand that there's some turn signals built into the front hood scoop. These are pretty standard LEDs that you will get with kits like this, and in this instance they've got some JST plugs on the end, and they're stuck together with a nice piece of heat shrink. So we need to make sure we don't lose any of the small parts. You'll also find that you'll get spare screws in almost every packet. I get a little screw tub and keep the spares, because you will need them. It's very helpful to have the spare ones. So keep a little screw tub and keep the sizes separate from each other. So in this packet we've got some B screws and some A screws, the LEDs, the turn signal lens, if you can see all of those things here, and our screwdriver. I've got a lot of these because you get one with each model. I probably won't use this one today, we'll see, but I like to use my Vera screwdrivers. These are quite comfortable when you're doing, can you see that? When you're doing a lot of builds, which I am, and I'm normally putting something together every day, a comfortable screwdriver is quite nice. If you're doing it periodically, then the standard one will be fine. So let's have a look at step one. So the very first stage, they want us to take the hood scoop and start to install the turn signals. So there are two pieces here. One is the turn signal lens, and you can see it's got some amber elements to it there. And then there's like a plastic bracket that holds that all in. So the turn signals slot into place like this, and that means that you'll be able to see them through the gap in the hood vent there. We then take this black plastic piece, it's called 1A, and it sits over the top. Again, it can only fit one way round. That piece 1A also has two little holes in it. Just here, they're recesses which will hold the LEDs. We then take the metal hood, and with it facing us on the desk, we're going to drop the hood vent over the top. And it sits quite nicely where there are 4 screw holes. Now we are going to have to screw this in from underneath using 3 B screws. So this is the first time we're going to have this upside down. So we need our foam. Just hold this in place with our hands while we get the first one in. And then we'll do the next two. Just keep in mind you're screwing into plastic pieces here, so you don't need to make them super tight. If you over tighten them, you could strip the thread out of the plastic and then nothing's going to hold together. So now we take the 2 LEDs, and they need to be inserted into these holes here for the vent. They're labelled D7 and D9. The instructions don't actually tell us which side goes where, so maybe it doesn't matter at the moment, but they are turn signals. So you would expect there'd need to be, you need to know which is left and which is right, unless we only have hazard flashes, in which case it doesn't matter. So we simply push those into these holes. They're a nice snug fit, so once they're pushed in, they will stay there. And the diagram shows that we want to then bring this cable out in this direction. So I might just rotate that lamp and that lamp slightly. Okay, because then they're going to come out that way. I'm not quite sure where yet, but we'll figure that out. I suspect there'll be an exit point in the hood liner. And here is that hood liner, and that is literally going to drop over the top, and it's very obvious where it sits, and yeah, there's a cutout on this edge here for these cables to go. So let's get that lined up. There we are. Nice and tidy. And we need 4 A screws for that. Now it used to be with the partwork models that the screws were labelled with a code that either ended in M or P. M meant you were screwing into metal. P meant you were screwing into plastic. And it was quite useful because you knew when you were able to tighten up and when you were best not to over tighten. Also, it meant that you would often put a little bit of oil on the screws that were going into metal, just to help them go in a bit easier. Whereas you don't always want to put oil in screws that go into plastic, because it can actually damage the plastic. They've seemed to have gone away from that process, and we've just got screws with A and B and C. So they did the same on the Supra. I'm not sure why, because there's a departure from the old way of doing it. It doesn't seem to be a forward step. So just be wary of what materials you're screwing into. In this case, we're screwing into the metal, so we want to make sure that we do them tight, but again, we don't want to strip them. We want to make sure we don't cross-thread them when we start. So with those 4 screws in place, we now have the finished assembly for stage 1. And we now need to make sure we put this somewhere where it's going to be nice and safe. So unfortunately it doesn't fit back inside the original packaging once it's assembled. But it might go into the lid of the packet. Yeah, so it will fit in the lid. I will make sure this then goes into a separate storage box to keep it safe. So now we take a look at issue 2, and one of the things worth looking at are the stories that come and the articles that come with the magazines. They often give you an insight into the vehicle, some of the elements of the film, and how the films were produced. So they are an interesting read. Obviously for today, we're just going to skip straight to the installation instructions. We're going to start to assemble one of the wheels. So here's our first wheel, and it's going to need some assembly. Again, it's another part that's not going to go on the car for a little while, so we will need to store it back in the box when we're finished. As with most of these wheels, we have a separate rubber tyre, an inner. Again, this piece is metal. It's a really nice metal piece. The spokes, the rear detail that goes behind the spoke, and then our lug nut assembly, and a packet of C screws. Different part works assemble the wheels in different ways. Some of them have it in 2 halves, and you just sort of push them through and assemble it. Others require you to take the entire hub, push it straight through the tyre, which is sometimes easier said than done because the rubber can be quite stiff. This one doesn't actually feel too bad. It's quite squishy. Some of them are really solid, and you have to actually heat them up in almost boiling water before you can make them malleable enough. The hub itself has 2 sides. We need to make sure we get this the right way around, because there's a small, I don't even know if you can see it there, but there's a very small valve stem in the rim. And we need obviously that to be facing out, and out is the side that has the painting on the tyre. So with the side that doesn't have a valve stem facing inwards, we're just going to push that through the rubber. And there we go. Pretty straightforward. Just needed pushing until the tyre met the rim on both sides. Just keep in mind that that valve stem could break off, so don't put your fingers around whilst you're pushing onto the stem and break it off. I do love a nice wheel. These are going to look great. We now take the inner and outer centres, and they literally just snap together. There's 3 little pins on the bottom of the chrome piece, 2 of which are quite close together, and then there are 3 holes that match that pattern on the inner. So we simply bring them together, line up the holes, and give it a gentle push. And it clips together just like that. Then we take our lug nuts. Again, there's 5 of them, and there are 5 holes. Simply line it up and give it a push. There are also actually some pins. They're very hard to see on camera, but there's some pins on some of the studs. So just line up the holes again to make sure the pins go over correctly. So in this case, that's putting it this way up. We push it through, and now we have our chrome lug nuts in place as well. And with the inner part assembled, it's simply a matter of dropping it over the top of the rim, and you'll see again there are 3 holes in the rim, and we just need to line everything up. And with everything centered, it's just time to put 3 screws in. I am having to hold it together, so I probably should have got the screws out first. And there's our completed wheel. And doesn't it look great? It's such a iconic piece, but also I just love these chromed wheels with the big fat tyres. These are going to look great on the car. So again, not going to use this piece now for a while. We'll take our original box, and it will actually fit, just about fit, back inside here. We may not be able to get the lid on cleanly, but at least it's protected, and we'll put that in our big storage bin with the rest of the car. Again, keep hold of the spare screws and keep them with the pieces. Eventually you'll end up with lots of different spares, and we can bring them all together into a nice tub, and they're very useful to have. So that's it for pack 1 of the Fanhome DeAgostini John Wick Mustang. It's the Boss 429 model, and it's my favourite of all the different Mustangs. I even prefer it to Eleanor. It's got a great aggressive look with the wheels and the front splitter and everything, and I really love it. Can't wait to see how this model is going to come together. So let me know in the comments if you're building it too, and we've got lots of other cars on the channel for you to have a look at. We're doing the Supra from the Fast and Furious. We've also got the 1966 Batmobile, and we're just about to start the Agora, No Time to Die, James Bond Aston Martin DB5. So that's a great car too. And we've also got the Ford Falcon XB GT on the channel, so check those out if you're interested in any of those. Please remember to click like and subscribe. It helps promote the channel. I'd really appreciate that if you could. And look forward to seeing you next time. Have a great day. Take care.